Hello, and welcome to episode 3 of NASHI News. This episode will feature human trafficking news from the headlines, but hopefully with a bit of a happier ending than most. And our interview on this episode will be with Glendyne Gerrard of Defend Dignity. An Edmonton man has been arrested after an Alberta-wide warrant went out for his arrest. Felician Mufuta, 37, was wanted by the Alberta Law Enforcement Response Team's Human Trafficking and Exploitation Unit on charges of trafficking in persons, sexual assault, procuring, advertising sexual services, and breach of release conditions. It is believed that this suspect preyed on some of our society's most vulnerable people, allegedly controlling them through violence and withholding their identity documents. The investigation began after a woman contacted the Edmonton Police Service in February to report that she was being forced to work in the sex trade and was sexually assaulted. The woman is now receiving support and specialized care resources. A sophisticated human trafficking network has been dismantled across 4 European countries, with 33 victims from South America and Romania rescued. 13 people were arrested simultaneously on Tuesday in Spain, Italy, Romania, and France. An investigation into aggravated pimping and human trafficking involved an organized gang has been opened. The prosecutor said that particularly sophisticated network included Romanian and Colombian nationals. The victims were recruited in their home country, attracted by the hope of a better future, and brought to France. They were then locked into an Airbnb type apartment under threat to their person and their family, and also kept under camera surveillance. 33 victims, Colombians, Dominicans, Paraguayans, and Romanians, aged 18 to 35, have so far been identified and taken in by welfare associations. And a human trafficking survivor is becoming a record-breaking athlete. Growing up, it was a very difficult environment because of the cartels and surviving sexual violence for Norma Bastidas, an immigrant from Mazatlan in the Mexican state of Sinaloa. Unfortunately, it's a reality for a lot of young people. I was trying to escape that when I was offered a job in Japan. It turned out not to be a real job offer, and I ended up being trafficked into a bar and became an escort. Eventually, Norma was able to flee her captors, and after living in Canada for a number of years, she settled in Los Angeles and attempted to cope with her dark past, leading to the life-altering discovery of a hidden talent and calling. Running was a way for Norma to confront all those demons she had. Within 6 months, she ran her first half marathon because her best friend was a runner, and she passed her. And that's when she thought, you know what? I'm going to find my limits. She went on to run her first full marathon and qualified for the Boston Marathon. She then took on ultra running, and people took notice. Now determined to be a force for human trafficking survivors, she decided to take on her biggest challenge yet, the Guinness record for the world's longest triathlon, a record currently held by a man. And now for our special guest. Today's guest is Glendyne Gerrard. Glendyne has been director of Defend Dignity since 2010, where she leads with a passion for standing in justice for marginalized women in Canada. She continues to learn from a growing number of survivors of exploitation. Glendyne has served as the National Director of Women's Ministries and has served as a pastor in the Christian and Missionary Alliance family of churches. Her organization, Defend Dignity, exists to end all forms of sexual exploitation in Canada. Defend Dignity believes in the inherent dignity and value of all women, men, and children, and has a mandate of raising awareness on the realities of all forms of sexual exploitation through events and resources, aiding survivors through financial and practical resources, and advocacy for law and policy reform with all levels of government and companies. Good morning, Glendyne. How are you this morning?
I'm really good. Good morning to you.
I'd like to talk to you briefly about the work of Defend Dignity and your three pillars, the awareness, aid, and advocacy. Can you tell us something about your group?
Sure. We started in 2010, and our mission statement rather is that we exist to end all forms of sexual exploitation here in Canada. And you're right, the three pillars of how we do that are awareness, advocacy, and aid. So awareness speaks for itself, and we do that through events, speaking, conferences, videos. We have a youth curriculum, all sorts of different ways that we try to make people aware here in Canada of what's really going on. And then aid is through our Survivor Support Fund. Last year we gave away about $60,000 to help 35 women here in Canada that reached out to us through their service providers. It's a fund that we make available twice a year, and it's going to be opening here on April 1st. And so we fully expect we'll probably receive 40 to 50 different applications from across Canada. And then we try to figure out how we can give that money away. Then the last one is advocacy, and we work to change laws and policies around sexual exploitation issues with all levels of government, and also with companies here in Canada that we think are complicit, sometimes unknowingly, through some of their practices and that end up facilitating exploitation. So that's kind of it in a nutshell.
That's a big nutshell.
Yeah.
It's my understanding that a lot of survivors, when they're officially out, still have a lot of expenses.
They sure
trying to basically change their identity, tattoo cover up, hair color, all that kind of thing that prevents the traffickers from finding them again, and dragging them back in. And there's very little funding available for that.
Yeah.
There's little incident items that would really help them out, but there's nothing there for them right now.
Yeah, you're exactly right, Andrew. And one of the most common things I would say in the last year and a half that we're getting asked for funds for is debt repayment, because traffickers saddle these gals with exorbitant debt through credit cards that they've taken out in their name, or cell phone plans. Those would be the two biggest ways. And then when they get out, they're still left with facing these huge debts. And of course, until that's paid off, it's very difficult to get education, to find a home to rent. All of that thing is so prohibitive. And so we've helped a lot with debt repayment in the last little bit.
Excellent. So we understand you have a exciting event coming up in May, basically focusing on the awareness and advocacy. Tell us about that event.
Sure thing. It's called the Canadian Sexual Exploitation Summit, and our tagline is Disrupt Demand. And it actually starts with some pre-summit training, specialized sector trainings. So on May 4th, we are doing a training for the hospitality industry, although it's wide open to anybody, but that is the official group that we're targeting to try to help hoteliers, motel folks understand and know the signs to look for. And that's being led by Durham Victim Services, and one of the trainers is a survivor herself. So I think that's going to be great. And then on the 5th, we have two other sector trainings. We've partnered with Truckers Against Trafficking. It's a US group that's now in Canada. And so for that, again, targeting the transit industry, it's an hour training that starts at 12:30 Manitoba time. And then the other training is an all-day event from 9 until 4, really targeting law enforcement. So that would include judges, crown attorneys, police, and it's being put on by the Winnipeg Prostitution Diversion Program. And I love it because in Winnipeg, they work really closely with the Justice Department, police, Child and Family Services, Salvation Army, all of them combined together. And here as well, there will be survivors that are involved in that training. Again, it's open to everybody, but that is the target audience. So those things are even ahead of the summit. And then on May 5th in the evening, we're doing a special virtual survivor celebration. So it's being planned by a group of survivors for survivors. I think we already have 40 to 50 survivors that are registered for this special event that is being planned just for them. We're even going to send out virtual gift cards, trying to make this as much of a celebration as we can, even though it's online. And then the 2 days of the summit themselves, all day May 6 and May 7. And we have 50 speakers that we're going to pack into those 2 days. Some really special things included, like we're doing a special honoring of Joy Smith for her good work here in Canada to get human trafficking legislation in place, and then of course her ongoing work with her foundation. We have some special creative artists that are going to join us for some of the time, and then of course the speakers themselves. So we're really excited about this first ever event.
So it is the first ever then for Canada?
Yes, the first event that we're doing for sure. And you know what makes this a little bit unique, I would say, from other human trafficking conferences, because there's certainly some good ones. I've attended a number of them myself in Canada. This one, because of the focus, because of our tagline, Disrupt Demand, we really wanted our speakers and everything we do at this summit to shine the spotlight on where we think it's not often shone, and that is on the side of demand.
Exactly.
And we really think that, you know, if it wasn't for demand, there wouldn't be supply. And so let's shine the light of focus and truth over that aspect. And so all the speakers will be coming and speaking through that lens as we take a look at it. And so I think, to our knowledge, this is the first time that anything on this scale has ever been done with that kind of focus.
Okay, I understand using the app, free download.
Yeah.
There's also breakout groups and communities you can set up, you know,
You bet.
your own kind of thing and continue the conversation.
You bet. Yeah, we've used the Huva app. I've attended different conferences using that app and have found it to be extremely interactive, with the ability, as you say, to send a quick message to somebody else that's attending. You can set up a very quick meetup that's virtual. The events themselves are super easy to access. You can do some Q&A within the app. You'd be surprised how much interaction and networking can actually happen virtually. And so it's the Huva app. That's where the platform that we're using for this. The other wonderful thing about it is that we're not charging anything to attend this summit. If you want lifetime access to all of the presentations, then we are asking individuals to pay $50. But the best deal in the house is if you register as a group, then that gives you 20 people in your group for only $125. Right. And that too would then provide you with lifetime access. Yes. But if you just want to come and take in as much as you can on those 2 days, then you can come for free.
That's actually considering the cost of attending an event, yeah, especially for us in Saskatchewan, where I think our airports just lost their international status.
Wow.
The cost of flying and hotels, yeah, and meals, yeah, $125 for a group, and you can take it in whenever you have time to take it in.
Yes, exactly.
It's actually a better thing than an in-person summit in a lot of ways.
Yeah, yeah, we think so too. And you know, we've actually got people on our registration list from literally around the world. Every time I take a look at it, I'm amazed at who's found out about it and where all of the different addresses are on our registration list. So I'm really thinking it's going to be a great time together.
So one of the other major accomplishments in the last couple of years has been your work against Pornhub and its parent company MindGeek, which are at least the servers, unfortunately, are hosted here in Canada. Yeah. Describe for us what exactly you're working on in that respect.
Sure. Well, for people that may be watching that aren't aware, MindGeek is the parent company of about 160 pornography companies, of which Pornhub is the notoriety of that is that it's the largest porn site in the world. And yes, it's headquartered here in Montreal. And because we believe that pornography is just sort of one end of the spectrum of sexual exploitation, because individuals can be trafficked into the porn industry, It certainly fuels the demand. You never meet a sex buyer that's not already fully immersed in using pornography. So we think that it's absolutely within our scope, within our spectrum of interest and focus to pay attention to it. So this company has been in the news. Really, what got wide public scrutiny around this is the Nicholas Kristof article that was in the New York Times on December 4th. He'd been doing a lot of research on that. And even though we've been trying to put that focus on for quite some time, that article really blew this wide open. And so what ended up happening is that he interviewed different victims of Pornhub. So either, in this case, all women who had videos uploaded to the account. It's a tube-based site, so anybody can upload stuff. And they had child pornography videos that were shot of them when they were children uploaded, and then they could not they couldn't get those things down. Then the other side of it would be non-consensual images that were uploaded. So women as adults had ex-boyfriends or whoever upload this kind of stuff to the website, and then again, just not an ability to take these things down. And of course, Canada has strong child sexual abuse material laws. It has strong laws around this whole issue of consent. And so in many ways, MindGeek has been breaking those laws. And one of the big things that happened or that they were doing is that there were download buttons. And so they were also part of the whole distribution side of things. And so on many levels, we believe that the laws have been broken, our Canadian laws have been broken, and we need to hold them to account. And so wonderfully, the Ethics Committee of our federal government invited MindGeek to appear, which they did, and we've been following that very closely. Defend Dignity sent in a brief. We helped in the writing of a letter that was put together internationally. There was probably 6 to 7 of us that helped write that letter. And then we, along with our international partners, were able to get 104 survivors, 525 NGOs from 65 countries around the world that all signed on to this. And we're really grateful for the news coverage that's been around that and the ongoing call. In fact, just yesterday, a group of 70 MPs and senators sent a letter to the RCMP saying you have to do a criminal investigation on the activities of this company. So we're watching very closely to see where this is all going to land. Will they indeed be held to account because of the laws broken? And we'll see what happens. But I think notice has been given to some of these companies that have been complicit in breaking laws, and certainly in the sexual exploitation of women and children.
Excellent work. And I think it's rather ironic that the technology we're using right now for this Zoom conference and interview came from the porn industry initially for streaming their so-called services. And right. I think it's great that we can use their own technology against them.
Yeah. And so, I would say half of our presentations, our speakers, will be either around the issue of pornography or outcomes from that issue. We've got a number of speakers addressing the safety online for children. And then I would say that the other half address the side of prostitution and human trafficking. Okay. So you're gonna learn a lot if you come to this summit with really some of the experts around the world. So, yeah.
Well, at the conclusion of this podcast, we will have up on the screen all the links to go and sign up for this summit. I think it'd be great for people to attend whatever they could attend. It's always great information to have.
Yeah.
One last thing for people who may not be aware of it, could you explain what PCEPA is?
Sure. Well, PCEPA is just the short form for the long words that describe Canada's prostitution legislation, which is Protection of Communities and Exploited Persons Act. And that was put into law in December of 2014. And part of the legislation included the fact that it would need to be reviewed at the 5-year point. That 5-year point, of course, it's 2021, it's come and gone. The government has not done that review yet. And we have concerns that the current government wants to repeal that legislation, which we think is good because it does have a focus on demand. And it really talks about the fact that prostitution is harmful. And so we want that legislation to stay in place. We think that there's enough countries, particularly in Europe, that have got similar legislation, and it's proving itself to be good legislation. And yeah, so that's what's going on with PSEPA. We've got our eyes very on it, trying to see when we can engage with government and talk to them further about keeping the legislation in place.
Excellent. Well, thank you very much, and we really appreciate the work that you're doing. It's encouraging to see other groups with the same devotion to the problem as we have, and one with considerably more resources that can get more done than we have. But
well, you guys have done a lot, particularly in Europe, but certainly here in Canada as well. So yeah, happy to see what you're doing.
So that's about all we have right now. And like I said, when we finish here, I'll have up on the screen for a sufficient amount of time the links to where to go and sign up for this incredible summit. Thank you again for your work.
Yeah, thank you, Andrew.